Carly, do you mind doing roll call?
Commissioner Sparks,
Present.
Commissioner Berman,
Here.
Commissioner Moffett,
Here.
Vice Chair Gilardi,
Here.
Chair Long.
Here. And next on is the land acknowledgement. The city of Cotati recognizes that we're on the ancestral lands of the coastal Miwok, who are the original caretakers of this area. We respectfully acknowledge the indigenous people who have been stewarding and maintaining a relationship on this land as knowledge keepers for millennia. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with indigenous communities, but serves as a gesture of respect to the land we are on. And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Any changes to the minutes from last meeting? Anybody would like to make? No? Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2026 meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Okay, have there been any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda, Chair Long.
Thank you, Director Hausch. Okay. So the first section is going to be public comment. So this will be open to anybody that wishes to speak about an item that is not on the agenda. So any member of the public wishing to speak to the commission on any items listed on the matters at hand or any matters not listed on the agenda that are within their subject matter jurisdiction of the commission may do so at this time. Anybody wishing to speak? Carly, do we have anybody online?
Thank you, Chair Long. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a comment, please use the raise hand icon. And Chair Long, that will end public comment.
Thank you. Okay. Matters at hand. Item 1 on the agenda. Director Hausch.
Great, thank you, Chair Long. Item 8A is the code cleanup ordinance. This report was prepared by Associate Planner Autumn Buss, but she couldn't be here this evening, so I will be presenting for her. And we'll go to the next slide. As the staff and community work with different areas of the code needing direction, different areas of the code, we kind of identify areas that might need correction or clarification.
And so periodically, staff brings what we call a cleanup ordinance before the Planning Commission and City Council to respond to these kind of errors or inconsistencies. Sometimes it's to streamline processes that have gotten a little bit clunky, clarify the regulations if the language is a little bit unclear or we've had some trouble with interpretation. And then, as the commission knows, there's been a lot of changes with state law, and so we're always kind of working to keep up with making sure our code is consistent with state law. The changes tonight are proposed to do those things, and the tool that cities use to update their zoning code is an ordinance. And so the Planning Commission has a resolution before them making a recommendation on these changes to the City Council, who would ultimately act on the ordinance. We'll go to the next slide. So these slides are just we're gonna walk through the individual changes, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything along the way. The first change is just to adjust the date that the city uses to pull the consumer price index that we base our fee updates on. So our fees update once a year for the new fiscal year based on the consumer price index. But the date in the zoning code is April, and we're proposing to switch it to February, which improves consistency with other identified dates, and then also gives staff enough time to implement that in time for the fiscal year, which happens on July 1st. So that's the intent for that change. Section 1722020, table 2-4 is proposed to correct references in the land use table for multifamily and multifamily plex housing. And it's to clarify that the specific plan takes precedence if there's a conflict in those areas. Go to the next slide. So changes to 1724-020. Also, one of the tables are intended to add the missing lot size and density standards for the TOC district. The commission will remember we just created a new zoning district called transit-oriented communities, and there was one area on this table that did not get updated, and so staff is proposing to update that to fully implement the TOC. Changes to Table 3-2 in Section 1730-030 are to clarify a process where applicants can request relief from a fence height standard. It was intended, this was previously adopted, but it was intended to apply to all situations, and the language is less than clear, and so there was actually someone who was trying to use it, and there was some lack of agreement amongst staff as to whether it could be applied or not to their situation. But the intent when this was approved previously was to allow a process by which anyone could request to adjust the standards to their residential fence by going through a planning process. So it would be a public process, it would be fully vetted and reviewed by staff, but inevitably there's circumstances where somebody's situation could benefit from some flexibility in the standards and having a process that would allow that, but also have city review is generally helpful from the staff perspective, and that's what this would provide. We'll go to the next slide. The changes proposed to 1736-090 are just to specify an amount of parking spaces that can be designed and constructed as compact spaces. Compact spaces are a little smaller, as everyone here knows when you go to the find some parking. But there's no standard that says how many spaces, and even the design of those is not included in the zoning code, and so that's being proposed to clarify that, and that way it'll set the standard. And doing a research, Cotati is actually one of only 2 cities in the county that don't have this codified, with Healdsburg being the other one. And so we wanted to clarify that. It's a pretty standard thing for us all to have. 1736-100 requires that a driveway have a minimum of 30 feet for someone to pull off of the street and park in that location before a gate can be used to block a private residential driveway. And the goal is just to allow people to get off of the street and out of the right away, not blocking traffic while they're waiting for their gate to open and close, or if they're going to get out and open or close it by hand. So that's the intent for that. We don't have that codified. It's a very typical thing. Fire department definitely wants that. And so that's proposed to be included in the zoning code.
No, clarification on that. Existing properties that do not have the 30 feet, are they exempt from this, or would they?
So we would codify it. The only time when an existing property would be subject to it, assuming it was legally built when it was installed, would be if they come to make a change. Yeah, so we're not retroactively requiring this proactively through the city. Next slide. So then the changes to 1739-030 and 040 are to modify the 3rd-story setback requirement for multifamily projects. And this is only to allow flexibility when the strict compliance would prevent a project from meeting the minimum density standards. And so the commission is familiar with all the state laws regarding housing. One of the things is we cannot not allow a project to construct to the minimum density. And there was some concern that having this mandated requirement in our objective standards could create a conflict, and so we wanted to just identify that if this standard would prohibit a project from meeting the minimum density as was required under state law and actually local Cotati regulations, then that density would allow the project to move forward in a way that, even if it didn't meet the exact intent of that setback requirement, it would not affect any existing approvals. This is just looking forward. And then the next slide is to add some additional, I'm sorry, one other standard to add some additional screening requirements for trash cans. And so we've spent a lot of time trying to make sure that dumpster requirements for apartment projects and multifamily are very clear, and there's a lot of standards, but we've been seeing issues where more and more folks are going towards individual trash cans. And then when you have that in a multifamily situation with a lot of units, you end up with a lot of trash cans. And in addition to being a problem on trash day for the right-of-way and the street and parking, it also creates a problem if there's not an identified storage area for those on the property. And so we're just kind of updating some of the trash standards to clarify that there are screening and storage requirements for individual cans as well as the dumpsters. We'll go to the next slide. This is proposing some changes to the telecommunication facilities, 1744040. There's a report that's required by the FCC for radio frequency exposure. So anybody proposing to install a new telecommunication facility, like a new cell tower, is required to produce this report. But our application requirements don't say that they have to give us a copy of it. And so we've had this situation where the applicants propose their project, and then we get all the way through the review process, and we're like, hey, we need this information. And it becomes a bit of a, I don't want to say negotiation, but I want to clarify that it is required, and the city council has previously directed staff to include this in the zoning standards, so we're implementing that direction with this code cleanup effort. The goal is to make sure everybody has access to complete information when they're reviewing the project and also acting on it. And there's a couple other changes that are included in these, and I'll just summarize them. One is proposed to increase the director's authority for acting on a minor variance from 10% to 25%. And really the goal of this is just to make it more practical. A lot of our standards are a 5-foot or a 10-foot requirement, and so if you can only approve 10% of 5 feet, then it's a half a foot, or 10% of even 10 feet is 1 foot, and it basically doesn't really get you much of a benefit. And a lot of times this is when somebody's trying to build a shed or install their air conditioning, and they have either a side yard or a rear yard setback, and it's just giving the city a more practical tool without having to bring somebody all the way to the planning commission with a major variance for a for a shed or a air conditioner setback. Or that's really where we're seeing these. Commission acted on a major variance at the last meeting with regards to a patio cover that had been built. That would have exceeded this 25% standard, so it still doesn't push the thresholds very far from the staff perspective, but we're just trying to make that tool more functional. And then there's another proposal to rezone one more parcel. There was one very small landscape strip parcel on East Cotati Avenue that didn't get included in the TOC ordinance. This is just a follow-up to make sure it does. And so it's what was communicated as intended to change, and it just didn't actually get listed in that list of properties that were rezoned, and so we're just playing catch up with this change. And with that, we will go to the staff recommendation, which the Community Development Department recommends the Commission conduct a public hearing and consider adopting a resolution to recommend the City Council adopt an ordinance amending the reference chapters and sections of the Cotati Municipal Code to correct errors and streamline the process as identified. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Director Hausch. We can open it up to the commission. If anybody has any questions at this time?
I have no questions, but thank you, Director Hausch, for answering some of my questions earlier today.
Question on that parcel that's being rezoned. You mentioned it's a landscape strip. Is there like a structure on it, or is it literally just like?
It's just an area of trees planted in front of some houses directly adjacent to East Cotati Avenue. Yeah, you wouldn't know that it was its own parcel, but it's just oddly it is.
I'm surprised it even is. Okay,
It's an HOA parcel.
got it.
Question on the setback. We had somebody come before us about a 30-foot setback with the third story. What will be the difference with this setback?
So for that project, it wouldn't apply. It's what we're more worried about is some of these smaller parcels. We have some examples. I'm trying to think of one. There's in that TOC zone that we created, like the new parcel that's behind the Chevron station. And then there's also one on East Cotati Avenue that's across from Oliver's. And we're worried about those parcels because they're kind of small footprint, being able to meet their minimum density if that 30-foot setback is required. The decision will still come before the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will still see it. But what we wanted to do is get in front of this. You could see it as a perceived conflict, but you could also see it setting up kind of a frustration maybe on the part of a neighbor who's pointing to a standard without having the fact that the state law requires the city to allow that minimum density to get built. And so we just want to clarify that up front versus have it come back as kind of an argument point or a point of contention when we actually don't have the ability to not allow them to go to the minimum standard or minimum density.
One thing I noticed in the presentation was it mentioned with the consumer price index increase. It said April, but then in the summary and then the code itself, it says February.
So we're proposing to go to February from April.
Okay. That makes sense. And then since I was curious on the San Francisco area, I was like, is that a typo? So I looked it up, and it is San Francisco area, but it looks like San Francisco area, it's like a larger San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose is like kind of the splash page, but then when you dig into the data, it's actually San Francisco, Oakland, Hayward. Like I didn't say anything about it in my email to you earlier when I was like, hey, I noticed some things, because I was like, it's fine, because when you click on it, it'll take you to the Hayward, but I'm wondering now, like in retrospect, like, is that potentially something that could cause confusion for people? And also, like, they're published every other month, so like the February data is published in March. So I know we're saying February edition, which again, I assume someone would interpret to mean the data for February, but I don't know. You never know how detailed some people get with these things. So I don't know if it's worth like being extra super duper clear.
I appreciate I appreciate the detail, and I will look at that as we bring it forward, because part of the reason that we're doing this is to be as clear as possible. And so that's excellent points. So the San Francisco and Hayward, and then also February edition versus February data.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because like when you look on the website for, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, it has this like splash page kind of, and it shows the reports, and the June data was published in July.
Yeah, it's my understanding it's the February data. We would get it in the March edition of the ENR, or maybe the April, because if it's every 2 months, and then that would give us enough time to get it updated into the June fee schedule, which gets published July 1st.
Yeah.
So, but I'll work with the city clerk to make sure they're responsible for doing that, but I will work
Okay.
with them to make sure, and then we'll bring that to the council as a part of the overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went so far as to like get a screenshot, and I almost sent it to you, but then I was like, maybe I'm being too nitpicky. But now that I'm reading it again, I'm like, I should probably say something.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll open up to the public to speak on this matter, if anybody would like to. And this is for, item A on the agenda. Carla, do we have anybody online?
Thank you, Chair Long. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand icon. And Chair Long, that will end public comment.
Thank you. Okay, we go to a vote. Do we have a motion?
What are we approving? The
All right,
proposed changes?
I'll move that we approve the resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Cotati recommending that the City Council adopt an ordinance amending chapters 3.42 fee and service charges revenue / cost comparison systems And all of the other numbers, do you need me to read the whole thing?
You can say, and waive further reading of the text.
And waive further reading of the text, which is extensive in this portion. Yeah.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Carla, can you take a vote?
Commissioner Sparks,
Aye.
Commissioner Berman,
Aye.
Commissioner Moffett,
Aye.
Vice Chair Delardi,
Aye.
Chair Long.
Aye. All right. Going on to item B on the agenda. Are you presenting this one as well, Director?
Thank you, Chair Long. I am.
All right.
Thank you, Commission. We will go to, yes, so item 8B on the agenda is the Freeway-Oriented Development Zoning Overlay Workshop. So no actions are being taken tonight, no decisions. This is an opportunity for the Commission to consider some recommendations from the staff, gather input from the public, and kind of give some recommendations as to what will get folded into an eventual ordinance that will get brought back through a public process after going to the City Council. And so we'll go to the next slide. Just briefly tonight, we're going to go over some of the council's goals and work plan direction for the department. We'll talk about some of the stakeholder engagement efforts that staff's undertaken to get input from the community. We will talk about what a freeway-oriented overlay district is in general, talk about some of the proposed zoning changes, and then talk about the next steps in the review process. And again, no ordinance is being considered tonight. This is just an informal study session, some people call it, or some people call it a workshop. We'll go to the next slide. So this project was included in the City Council's adopted work plan that was just approved as a part of the budget. And then, so this was a task that the department was given to come up with a freeway-oriented zoning district. And it comes out of the council's adopted goals, which are listed there on the left side of the slide. And one of the goals is to ensure the long-term vitality of the city. And so when you look at, kind of drill down into that goal, it includes a balanced budget, an economic development strategy that includes business attraction and retention, removing barriers, and promoting Cotati businesses. And so we took all of that into mind as we move forward with the recommendations that we came up with, in addition to what we heard from some of the business community when we reached out to them. Sorry about that. And we'll go to the next slide. So this project really kind of focuses on the industrial area of the city. It's one of the kind of key economic engines for the community. When we look at our sales tax data, that is a very significant contributor to the city regarding sales tax. And so that means there's a lot of business activity over there. And so it's really important for us to be thoughtful about them as we look to, meeting some of the council goals that were identified with that economic vitality effort. So as a part of our process, we were wanting to hear from the businesses in the industrial area generally, and then also in the folks who have that kind of freeway visibility and adjacency with Redwood Drive, because it's really easy to get on and off the freeway there, whether you're coming from Roner Park via Expressway or Redwood Drive via 116. And so we reached out to a lot of the property owners there, the business owners. We wrote direct letters to everybody actually in that entire neighborhood and all the folks who are highlighted in that industrial area right along Redwood Drive. We visited businesses door to door to kind of hear from them, trying to just get different ways to allow people to talk to us. And we wanted to hear from them kind of what have their challenges been and what opportunities do they see moving forward to operate from those properties, or as a business owner to be able to get new tenants and new investment in your properties going forward. And so consistently the feedback was talking about their sign visibility, the ability to have events and promote their businesses and activities that they're doing there, kind of flexibility in the different types of uses who could operate from those buildings, and then just generally trying to expand the flexibility for business activity in general along that freeway corridor. And so what we tried to do is kind of take that input and use it to recognize the difference between how those properties operate and those businesses operate as compared to maybe a business, you know, in the middle of town or on East Cotati Avenue, and then see where it might make sense to allow some changes or some flexibility beyond what the standard citywide business kind of regulations are. And so we'll go to the next slide. So this one is just like to talk about what is a freeway-oriented development overlay. So it's essentially a zoning tool that tries to balance high visibility with aesthetics, circulation, and business opportunities with regards to the land uses that are allowed there. It generally will encourage intensification of land uses because, again, if it's easy to get on and off one of your major, thoroughfares or connectors, arterial streets, then it makes sense that you could have more intense uses there because in theory that traffic doesn't need to go through all of the city to get from A to B. They can jump right on the freeway or those major streets and use those and not impact the neighborhoods throughout the city if you intensify land uses there. Some cities might streamline approval processes. In some areas, these freeway-oriented parts of the town serve as a gateway into the community. So there's kind of different factors that cities and communities balance if they're looking to allow these. A lot of times they'll allow very dense residential uses in those areas, again, because it's easy for people to get to and from them. And so they just look to intensify land use, generally is what they do. But then also balancing the circulation and the aesthetic look of that because they recognize that it also is often very visible. So we'll go to the next slide. And this kind of talks about what's the Cotati version of that. So how that's a general concept. Not all those ideas are a good fit for Cotati. So how do we balance that with what we kind of say Cotatify it? So how do we do that with our regulations? And so from our perspective, this part of the city is essentially fully developed. There's not really undeveloped properties along this area. There are some that are maybe underdeveloped. But it's a purely commercial part of the city. There's no residential areas at all in this part of the city. The project goals are to encourage reinvestment and redevelopment of these properties, promote the businesses that are there by allowing kind of attraction of new businesses and retention of existing businesses for those property owners, increase the economic activity generally, and the visibility of those businesses and maybe what their activities are, and then try to support the reuse of those properties through flexibility in the regulations.
No.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You said that there's no homes there, but this is Commerce and Redwood, right? Both sides?
No.
Of the
So
freeway?
currently, so we'll go to the next slide. It's a good question. So the next slide. So currently, this effort only focuses on that portion of the industrial district, which is on the west side of the 101, directly adjacent to Redwood Drive. It's interesting, there is a definition of freeway-oriented in this current sign code that talks about a distance from east from the freeway and west from the freeway. These changes are only proposed to affect properties on the west side of town. Yeah, that was a good question, good catch though, and thank you. And then it's hard to see now, but the entire industrial area is highlighted in red. And then that blue area highlighted in yellow is the properties proposed to be in the overlay. So it's essentially right now from Lowe's or north to the edge of the city, which is where like Eddie's Paintworks is on the west side of the freeway. And we'll go to the next slide. And then this is a overlay showing that, and it's also part of a graphic that was sent out to all those property owners and business owners. And it kind of talks about, hey, the city's considering making these changes. We're trying to hear from you what might help you, but the things we're thinking about are increasing the allowed signages, increasing the allowances for sales activities, kind of sales events, and then more allowed uses in general. So this is, there's a copy of the letter in the packet, but this is what went out to those property and business owners. We'll go to the next slide. And so getting into some of the specifics as to what is included in the code. We heard a lot from businesses about signage. People really, feel that new signs and bigger signs would help them. And so the proposed changes as they're currently written, and this is just to, kind of a starting point, so we'd love to hear feedback, is to allow up to maybe 50 or 100 more square feet for these businesses, to expand some of the allowances for monument or directory signs, to allow pole signs in some of these locations, and then maybe allow those pole signs to go up to 25 feet in height. And again, the whole goal is to improve business visibility while maintaining the community aesthetics and traffic safety, and essentially recognizing the difference between these businesses and some of the businesses like on East Cotati or in downtown. And so this is an example of the current sign that is out there now. This is considered a pole sign. So this sign, it's existing, and there are several of these along Redwood Drive, but under today's regulations, they're not allowed to have these signs. So they're what's called non-conforming, they're existing non-conforming. There was definitely a time in the city's past where they allowed these, which is, I think, where that reference to the freeway-oriented signs that's in the zoning code now comes from. But this sign type is not currently allowed. So the proposed changes are to allow this sign type to come back into the code, and then to essentially allow it to be built at a little bit taller height. This sign currently is 16 feet tall, so that's why this is in there, to show what the current height is. And then if we go to the next slide, it kind of shows that there's another 3 or 4 or 5 of these signs down Redwood Drive. We think Dunn Edwards is the tallest, and we think that's about 20 feet today. I don't have all of the details on those past approvals and designs because they were made at a previous time, but that's what we think, and we're just trying to essentially allow these types of signs to be a allowed type in the code for these properties, and then to allow them to be a little bit bigger is essentially what's being proposed in the code changes. And then some people could take advantage of that extra signage by putting it on their building rather than putting it on one of these taller sign types. And we'll go to the next slide. So the next kind of category is expanding the allowed promotional events and opportunities. And so every year the Harley-Davidson business does this ride, and that's a sales event. And so they have to pay the city over $1,000 in a fee for us to essentially recycle the conditions of approval that we put on last year's event and put it onto this year's event. Obviously, we let the police department know, we let the fire department know when they're going to do it, but there's not a lot of analysis or staff input that really goes into that. And so one idea would be to allow these types of events as by right and just have a set of prescribed standards that say, if you're going to do one of these things, you have to do it in this way and do things that require the safety requirements, fire department, police department notification, but just proactively say, here's how you do this, versus waiting for somebody to bring us their idea and then reacting to it. So that's one of the proposals. Anything else I want to talk about?
Question on that.
Yeah.
So would the responsibility for notifying like the police and everyone be on the applicant then in that case, or would the city staff still do that?
It would be on the applicant. So it would essentially, rather than having community development be almost like a middle person where you come to us and we distribute it, we would say, oh, you want to do that? You can, but here's the process.
Got it.
And we would prescribe that and have like a handout and then have it in the code and say, here's how you do this as a business if you want to do that type of activity.
Okay. And then how would we verify that they've done those things?
So it would be kind of, there would be no, my department would not be involved in double checking that.
Enforcing it?
So it would be more like if there was a problem and then they didn't do it, so then it would be more of an after the fact penalty process instead of a proactive charge you up front and guide you through the process.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
And there'd be no fees then associated with, correct?
That's what we're thinking, yeah. I mean, there would still be fees, like, there's a separate fee if you want to close a street, that goes through Public Works, we're not involved in that. But there would be no fee for, like, if, right now, so when we talked to the Sonoma Outdoors person, he said it would be nice for him to have, like, maybe a sales event in his parking lot once a season, you know, and we could limit the amount and how often they happen, and put out some more of his merchandise, because he thinks he gets a lot of benefit from his customers seeing what he actually has for sale there. And so, his idea was if I could just have an event where I could, you know, put one of my super nice pieces of furniture outside, or, you know, a hot tub out there, or barbecue or something, and just try to draw some attention to it. From their perspective, they felt like it would help drive some additional traffic because of so many people passing by on the highway. You see that sign, or maybe you don't even see it because it's not that big, that says Sonoma Outdoors. But what does that really mean? If you don't take the time to know what they have, then, you know, maybe you might not go there when you might even benefit from that. So this was just some of the things we heard from those folks when we engaged with them. All right, and we'll go to the next slide. And then the last thing is just expanding the land use types that are allowed in that neighborhood. And the whole goal is to increase the occupancy of vacant commercial spaces, and then also allow, maybe hopefully motivate some reinvestment in some of the underdeveloped properties, or that haven't had anybody invest in them in a long time. From the staff perspective, the changes in the code are pretty tame. Like, the only thing that's proposed to be allowed by right is a doctor's office in that area. The rest are just changing from either full use permit to minor use permit, or something that's not recognized as allowed, but going to allowed with a use permit or a minor use permit. And some of the things we're going to talk about there would be urgent care and clinics. You know, one of the things we consistently hear when we do the surveys is people want more medical services in Cotati, but our code is, you know, historically zoning has put things, the office goes over there, retail goes over there, industrial goes over there. But that's not necessarily how business operates anymore, and so we're trying to blend some of these zoning, blur some of the zoning lines, and we've talked about that in past efforts. And so urgent care and clinics, adult daycares, specialized training schools are all things that could go over there. Then some retail, antique stores, and then some of the changes that may be concerning, but we're proposing them, are allowing drive-through services over there. So historically, Cotati has not been supportive of drive-throughs, definitely not in the city core. We're proposing to consider allowing them in that area, again, recognizing the freeway visibility, they're easy on and off. That may be a location for appropriate location for a drive-through, or expanding some of the formula-based restaurants. The city has allowances for those, and essentially it's a budget, and only, you know, a certain number are allowed in each part of the city, but they're not currently allowed in this area. So the staff is proposing to kind of just broaden that out, keep the budget, keep all the regulations on them, but just allow them to kind of be more spread out through the city. It's essentially, you get, I think, 1 or 2 formula-based businesses in each part of town, and I think none in the downtown. And so I'd have to look at the zoning standards, but that's basically what the code, it doesn't prohibit them, it just, we don't want a concentration of them. But right now, they're not allowed in this part of town at all.
I thought we had a limit. I thought we had a number.
There is a limit, but I feel like I'd have to look at the specific language. It's per area, but it may have an overall cap as well. Okay, and I'll have all that, if the commission, based on whatever we hear from the commission tonight, I'll make sure that that's fully fleshed out for the council when we take it to their workshop. And so the public can be aware of that, and the council can be aware of kind of what those parameters are as a part of thinking about should we make changes to it.
So if the formula-based restaurant plus drive-through services, it could theoretically allow, like a fast food.
Correct. With a full use permit. So it'd be coming to the planning commission, it'd be a full, you know, traffic study, there'd be public process, but yes, environmental analysis, all of that.
And just to clarify, formula-based restaurant is like a franchise?
Yeah, but it's a franchise that has over a pretty high number, like over 200 locations or 100 locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like Mambo's doesn't qualify, but Habit Burger would.
That's correct. So Habit Burger, I've gotten calls from Habit Burger. They are interested in Cotati, so that's the reason for that photo, is because they have contacted me. They're interested in Cotati. They're on an expansion. So one of the things to consider. And they don't always go for drive-throughs. Habit is kind of a unique fast food in that they're not married to their drive-throughs.
Yeah, I think the one over by Coddingtown isn't a drive-through, if that's a Habit Burger.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it, okay.
That is Habit Burger, yeah. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So next step. So tonight we're having the workshop with the commission. Thank you to the public who came out. This item is going to the city council for consideration next Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow. Again, another workshop, no decisions, just gathering as much input as possible. Whatever we hear from the commission and the council and the public will get baked into a draft ordinance, and then that'll come back through a public process. That'll come before the planning commission. We're tentatively targeting September 21st. Right now, and then if the commission agrees with that and recommends approval, that would go to the city council for a first reading sometime in October. And then it would require a second reading, likely in October or November, and then it would go into effect 30 days after that, if approved. And with that, that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm really eager to get some input from the commission and the community.
Great. Thank you, Director House. Opening it up to the commission.
I have
Any
some questions. So the overlay, I understand that it's kind of set within the boundaries of the commercial zone, but I don't think it has to be.
That's correct. We could expand it.
So I'm wondering, I think if we're going to do this, it should include the businesses all the way to the 116 kind of interchange, which would then include Lowe's, that Gravenstein complex right there, as well as the 76 station, which does have a pole sign. So I'd love for that to be, I don't know, legal? In compliance as well. And so just something for everyone to consider if we want that to go all the way to that freeway entrance. And then I had a question about the not needing a full use permit on a couple of items, and that in particular was around the small recycling facility. I just know that there's a lot of aerosol particles usually that are associated with small recycling facilities, and I would be concerned about that kind of being a minor use in particular.
Okay, currently it's allowed as a permitted use, so staff is proposing to actually increase the kind of city oversight on those. If the commission wants it to go to a full use permit, no problem
I would love to
on
see
that.
a full use permit
Okay.
on recycling facilities.
Okay,
And full use would require coming before the commission versus minor
Correct.
use would just be staff?
director level decision
Director
at a
level, okay.
public hearing, but yes.
Okay. Are you thinking of that facility they tried to put in Roanoke Park? Remember,
No, not necessarily. That one's really unique in that it was an incinerator.
Yeah.
And it's just recycling facilities in general do have a level of aerosol particles and pollution that come from them that can be mitigated if they're properly set up. And so I would just want, I'm not against a recycling facility, obviously. Look at the one that Recology has in Santa Rosa. It's beautiful. But when they took that over, it was not, and was emitting some rather tough things. And they've done a great job. And so I would just want to make sure that it has the proper oversight from the city and from the council to ensure that those safety procedures are in place, because we do have people living and working nearby.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And thank you for bringing that up, because I remember thinking that when I was reading the packet. I thought of that thing that they tried to put in Roanoke Park, and I think that got approved at some level, and then everyone was like, well, how did that get approved? It should have come before a commission or something. And so I agree, anything that could potentially pollute the air at that level should come before a commission, if possible. I don't know. What does everyone else think? Is it just me and Kimberlyn that feel that way?
I agree with that, and as far as expanding the area, we should also include across the street where Mercy is, because there's also a large pole that was for that gas station that sits on that piece of property.
What about expanding it to across 116 and including that other gas station and that other shopping center?
I would I mean, I would say yes to
I
including
think that's what
the
you're.
76, which I
Yeah.
guess is across. But
Yeah,
I would
okay.
not include the one on the other side of that because it's not a freeway-facing parcel. It's close to, but it doesn't technically touch the freeway.
Like the Johnny's Java shopping center?
It would have to be a huge sign. I feel it would have to be too big of a sign to be seen from the freeway.
Yeah, but it's more than just signage requirements, right? It's like other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is
Land use and everything?
we can change a lot of things, yeah, but that could also, if we wanted to look at the land uses for, that's called the Gravenstein corridor zoning district, we could kind of have a separate effort to look at allowable uses in that commercial zone.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea, because I think the goal of this, and it's been a goal of the city for a while, is to try to become more business-friendly. And so I think that if we kind of look at the broader picture, I think what we have here is a really good start, but I think we can expand it.
Any other clarifying questions before we get to?
How come we're just looking at the west side right now and not any of the businesses on the east side?
Yeah, so it's because when we originally talked to the city council about this, we were focused on the industrial district because it really is the number one economic engine for the city. But in doing the research, staff found, and as the commission has pointed out, we actually considered both sides of the freeway at one point as being freeway oriented, and we have regulations that talk about that. So that's something that we could talk about if the commission wants staff to explore that or talk to the council about that as an idea.
Is it because there's more residential over there, or is that not, that hasn't related to it?
It doesn't seem to be, because, so from the staff perspective, the current freeway-oriented regulations are just about signs. And they talk about, if you look at it, I think it's like, it's a certain distance on the west side and then half of that distance on the east side. So it does seem to recognize that if you got deeper, further from the freeway on the east side, then you would be in residential areas. And so I think the regulations currently do recognize that, but they're only limited to signs, whereas staff said if this is, when the council assigned it to us, it was, let's look at what we can do to benefit those businesses more broadly, not just signage.
Yeah, like the new hotel going in, do they have any kind of signage, or is that?
This would not affect them, and they do have signs. They do have signs.
Is there a new hotel going in?
Someday.
It looks like it's stalled out again. Sorry, I don't want to.
On the, as far as light sources are concerned, it says shall utilize hardwired lighting technology, but doesn't mention solar. So I think that should be included in it.
Okay. Yeah, I will say one of the things staff was trying to navigate around is when you get so specific, and you'll see if you read the regulations that are currently there, you end up kind of being stuck in the past as technology changes. But absolutely, we can add a reference to solar.
There were references to balloons and this, what are those things called? Those wind things
Yeah.
that flop around and, Brown Act wise, I spoke with residents and folks are not interested in seeing that kind of thing. When you spoke about Sonoma Outdoors, I think having the ability to put your product out is great. It's your product. It's not a balloon. It's what is for sale. It is, to me, that makes sense. And that is attractive to me as a resident driving down and seeing what is available in these businesses. A lot of the businesses, I don't even know what they have or what they're, so that's helpful. And the residents are not really interested in, they like living in Cotati, not Rohnert Park, not Petaluma, Cotati. And the need for all this hype, which I would call hype, is not necessary. The business speaks for itself, I believe. And a good fit for Katati is going to bring people in, and that's what the residents said to me. So, yeah, I'm very uncomfortable with making it bigger and putting it on the other side and, you know, with sparkles and gold fireworks. I'm just a little uncomfortable with this. We're ourselves. So the businesses will be in Katati because they want to be, and there's a reason to be here. That's what I think.
So I will respectfully disagree with you on that. I do not like the idea of them out 24/7, but I think they should be allowed for special events, sales, things of that nature, especially driving down the freeway. If it's something that's going to grab your attention, something that has some movement to it, whether it's the flag or one of those fan-driven, whatever they want to call them, that doesn't bother me. I don't like electronic signs. I think that's a even bigger distraction. But from a business point of view, I think we need to allow them to have different options to promote their products and their businesses.
What kind of limitations would there have been around that, you know, a promotional type feature like that?
And so currently, they're not allowed at all.
Okay, but under the new, what
Well,
we're exploring now,
yeah,
there were some
so-
limitations, right?
What Commissioner Berman is referencing, there was just a section in the red line portion of the code that just says consider, and it's got question marks like, you know, balloons, moving, you know, so just basically trying to gauge the interest like at the commission, that the commission has expressed already.
But is there no limitations on,
Well, there would definitely be limitations, so, I mean, I think Ms. Berman's point is important to consider, even if we were to take, to build some flexibility into it. I think, as Commissioner Gilardi pointed out, not up all the time. I mean, you would want to put limitations, and staff's idea would be to, if we were to allow these sales events, allow a certain number of them a year per business, put limits on their time frame, limits on what they can do, and then, you know, the stuff has to come in or out or is limited. So it's just, right now, we're just gauging interest in broad stroke ideas, and then staff will refine it. We can come back with another workshop or get more input to further iterate on it after we kind of gauge the big picture.
Yeah, I would agree with Commissioner Ghilardi, like the balloons, like I know, thinking like if they're having an event, they would want to draw attention to that event and have it be kind of like a party like atmosphere. And nowadays, I know those like balloon arches are super popular. I could see them wanting to put something like that up, and then if we're like, nope, sorry, they would be like lame. You know what I mean? Like I think that if it's, I don't know how we could say in a tasteful way, but like, you know, have it be allowed, but within reason, or have limits on it, I think that would be okay. And yeah, I don't want to see them 24/7 either. But yeah, I think we should allow them.
So it sounds like maybe there's no more questions. I don't know if we want to.
open it up to public comment, and then we can come back if there's any follow-up questions with the commission. Right, yeah, we'll just open it up for public comment if you'd like to make a comment. Please come on up.
Yeah, so I just, business owner on the area there. There's a lot of multi-use or multi-unit buildings, you know, where it's not just the business that faces right on Redwood, you know, so you gotta go in like a driveway, you know, and there's multiple businesses going down, you know, so we have constant problems, you know, with customers saying that they have a hard time finding us and, you know, don't know where we are because of the limited signage, you know. So even just something simple like being able to put out a temporary sign just during business hours, you know, like a feather flag or something, you know, that, you know, they can identify where we're supposed to, what driveway, where to even find the business, because they're looking for us and they can't find us, You know, if we could just put out, you know, a feather flag during business hours, you know, it helps a lot with, being able to be located, you know, and then it comes down, you know, at 5 o'clock when we close, kind of a thing. You know, and it's not a moving, blowy, or electronic sign or anything, but, you know, not currently allowed under the current provisions, you know, and we've gotten, you know, correction notices in the past, you know, that we weren't allowed to do that, so, if something like that could be considered, you know, we would find that helpful, because, you know, I have had to consider potentially moving and looking for a different business location, you know, because of visibility issues. So I'm glad that it seems like you guys are mostly in favor of that. And that would be my input, you know, hopefully that gets considered as well, and allowed signage.
Thanks. Quick question for you. What business, what's your business?
It's Auto Phoenix.
Okay.
So we're a smog inspection and auto repair.
Great. Thank you.
I just want to say that we get phone calls every day, like, I don't know where we're at and can't find you. And then we don't, when we try to describe it to them, and even then, sometimes they don't find it. And so we lose customers that way too.
You know, that's interesting. I think my husband had to take a car to get smogged there, and he told me I had the hardest time finding it.
Yeah,
This
even
is-
with GPS, yeah,
Yeah.
I still can't find it.
Yeah, so, totally agree. That's, that would be frustrating for sure as a business owner. Question, what is a feather flag?
I mean, it's like a 12-foot pole, you know, and it's just kind of a loose flag, you know, it's maybe 2 feet wide, about, you know, 12 feet tall. And you just put it out on a pole, you know.
Okay,
You see them in front of the new Chinese restaurant? They have like 4 of them along the street right now.
oh, gotcha, yeah,
That's what
yeah,
those are.
That's what
okay.
they look like.
I know, yeah, okay, thank you.
And they come in all
Looks like a
different
feather.
shapes,
I see.
sizes,
Mhm.
heights.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners and Director Hausch. Thank you very much for doing this, first and foremost. My name is Brian Ling, and our property is 7911 Redwood Drive, known as the Reliance Business Park. My family put that in 1973. We've been there ever since, seen a lot of changes, and what we've talked about with the directors, these are some of the most business-friendly discussions that I've heard, frankly, in 50 years, so very positive. My purpose tonight, I just really want to give full support to staff and the proposed changes for the FOD. Particular highlights for me are signage. The elimination of sign program doesn't sound like a big deal. It is. I've spent over $15,000 in 9 to 12 months with the staff here 15 years ago for a sign program that was obsolete the second it was done. So getting rid of that is a huge plus. Streamlining every kind of review possible, always going to be supportive of that. One thing that's not in here is internally illuminated signs that were basically outlawed, is not the right word, but no longer allowed. 80% of the signs along Redwood Drive right now are internally illuminated because they've been grandfathered in. I think if some are grandfathered, 80% are grandfathered in, the balance should be allowed to. So I think internally illuminated signs should be added to this ordinance. Expanded land use opportunities. We have multiple tenants over there, and I've always been frustrated with prospective tenants and going through the chart that isn't exact, and all I can ask, and we've talked about this, all I can ask is provide flexibility and fluidity to that document as best we can. Business changes, types of business changes. 15 years ago when we're doing the zoning, we didn't think we'd be having retail cannabis shops, and things change in business, and I just hope there's always flexibility in that land use document chart. Lastly, 2 things that are indirect but not part of the FOD, landscaping and particularly the requirement for separate water meters for landscaping. And this is probably a citywide thing, but it hit me
30
personally. We spent over $20,000 on our landscaping just to get a water meter for plants that don't require water. And it's a ridiculous aspect for me. I'd sure love to see that addressed sometime since I'm here. Lastly, billboards has been a topic forever here. There's a great opportunity for revenue for the city with the current technology of billboards out there. Again, not necessarily part of this, but it's all freeway oriented. So
Great.
I'd like to see someone consider that in the future. Thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you. Okay. So appreciate the comments. Do we have any other questions, or do we have anybody on Zoom that would like to comment?
Thank you, Chair Long. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, if you'd like to make a public comment, please use the raise hand icon. Jessica, you have the floor.
Hi, good evening, Commission. I missed a little bit of the beginning part of this, but I did hear some of the comments as far as what the signages are and what people are liking, what people aren't liking. I do think it is inappropriate for one commissioner to talk to a few people and then speak for the entire community stating that we don't want this hype. I personally do want the hype. I do want to celebrate all of these businesses, and I do want to be able to see them from a distance. I do remember the hot tub company was able to have a hot tub out one year, way back when, and they had a big inflatable rubber duck. And that's how I remember, hey, that's where that company is. If I ever want a hot tub, that's where I'm going. I do think that I'm a visual person. I can't speak for everyone, but I do visually remember where things are. Not necessarily directions, but I can tell you, yes, turn left at that blue sign. I do think that these signages should be also appropriate. I think Mr. Gilardi said it really well that, you know, signs that you have to read that may change could be a distraction. I think that if it were something that had writing that was actively moving could cause issues as far as people trying to read it while driving. But I do think that there is a way to have these signages and help the community find these businesses in an appropriate way. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else online?
Chair Long, that will end public comment.
Thank you, Carla. We'll bring it back to the commission for any follow-up questions.
Yeah, Noah, can you clarify the internal lighting?
Yeah, so there was a concern years ago with the what people call can signs or box signs, where they would just make a metal frame and a kind of a plexiglass logo or white background, you know, put some very generic letters on it and light up the whole box. And that basically was seen as an internally illuminated sign, which it is, but then that prohibition essentially hasn't kept up with sign technology, where now you can block out the entire background and just have the lettering illuminated. You can have internally illuminated individual letters, which is a very kind of appealing and aesthetically nice sign type. You can have halo lit lettering, which sometimes the source of that is internal. And so I think Mr. Ling's point is correct in that historically cities in Sonoma County prohibited those, and it's because they were a type of sign that was really aesthetically generic and not attractive. But I think the technology for signage has changed drastically, and I think we could be nuanced in prohibiting the generic, less aesthetically attractive ones and allowing some individual letters to be illuminated. That still is a very nice sign, but it gets to some of the points that Mr. Ling is making.
Can you just remind me what is allowed, what kind of illumination is this allowing?
Well, right now, the code essentially anticipates everyone having an external light source to light up their sign.
Okay.
I will say that is a very, not a new technology. That's an older way to illuminate signage. And so we didn't get into a lot of the specifics on the code changes regarding the illumination, but it sounds like there may be an interest to kind of modernize some of the code, making sure it focuses on aesthetics and keeping things really nice looking. But I mean, from the staff perspective, having a exposed light source is actually, you're you're gonna push more light off of the site, you're gonna push more light onto neighboring properties, you know, you have dark sky issues, all those things. I think moving to internally illuminated signage that just illuminates the lettering is a way to kind of meet the business needs and then also actually minimize the light spill and kind of some of the aesthetic issues with external sources.
Okay. Is this proposing to explore that further, or is that something we should recommend?
If it's recommended from the commission, I think we definitely can take it. I mean, there's a lot of talk about it. We can provide some additional information to the council. There's lots of examples of this type of thing that people can see pictures of and to see what we're talking about. But there's very nice signage that is internally illuminated.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend exploring that further in the
Okay.
next workshop.
Yeah, right now they're listed on prohibited signs, so packet page 76, letter C. 173840.
I kind of like the idea of the flexibility, especially with changing technology. Not all signs are going to be, you know, there's no one perfect fit for every building, depending on location and whether it's a pole sign or a sign on the building, a sign above the building, or whatever. So I'd kind of like to see some kind of flexibility, you know, case by case.
Okay.
So question, Noah. In Phoenix Auto's case, where they're not the forward-facing tenant, but they're back, which I've also had my car smogged there, fabulous. Would they be able to put a pole sign, like a permanent sign there? And if so, would it then be like several tenants could put a permanent sign, or would it be one sign that could have several different businesses on it? How would that work?
Yeah, so one of the things is staff is always recommends if you create a large sign, you want to require that sign allow as many businesses to participate in it as possible. And so if the city is going to grant businesses the ability to put in bigger signs, they also should require that businesses consolidate themselves to take advantage of that one structure. You don't want to have every business with their own individual. So some of the changes in the code are also proposed to allow directory signs, so more signs intended to help people find businesses. In addition to that pole sign type, there's also some additional height on a freestanding sign, so that's called a monument sign. So there's a pole sign where the base is narrow and then you have the bigger sign at the top of it. A monument sign is more of like a mini wall or a structure that then, it's more like the signs you see on East Cotati Avenue, but in Cotati, they're very limited in height. They're limited to a maximum of 6 feet. Typically, you have some type of landscaping in front of it, so your sign area is pretty small. There is some language in the item before the commission tonight to allow expanded directory signs, additional heights on freestanding signs, and then I have some ideas about other ways to work with that individual business. So based on what we hear from the commission, we'll make some code changes, and I'll also work with them directly to kind of see where we can find flexibility.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I am concerned about unintended consequences with signage and the amounts of signs and the light pollution and billboards, and I have concerns about it, and I think that I would like that to be said as well. Thank you.
This new overlay would continue to prohibit billboards, right?
Correct.
So there is that billboard that's kind of just south of the storage facility on Redwood Drive. Is that technically Rohnert Park? Is that like the boundary between? Rohnert Park?
No, that is in the city.
Oh, that is in Cotati? So is that grandfathered in then?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're recommending pushing the zone a little further south, right? But we're not looking. Some people are. But we're not suggesting looking at the west or the east side commercial districts. People aren't interested in that.
It does say, like, the staff summary says with an initial focus on the industrial district west of the highway. That's packet page 70, section 6.
Yeah.
So that to me implies that we're starting here but could expand out?
If, it was based on what we hear from this conversation and the city council.
Oh, okay. So the intent is not to expand out over time, but to set our overlay once and then leave it, and then, 20, 30, 40 years from now, if we want to expand it, we can, but the intent is not to have it be like something we revisit like every year or so?
Yeah, the intent is to do this as its own action focused on the general area that we talked about on the west side of the highway. If there was a big push or a lot of interest based on what we hear tonight and from the city council, staff anticipated that would be a separate action. And just those business types are so different. You would want to probably have a different set of regulations for those because of the things that Ms. Berman pointed out about the, potential residential impacts. It's just a different type of land use over there. It's more shopping center, whereas, that's the industrial part of town, and it is more freeway oriented with that. Redwood Drive is essentially a frontage arterial street that gets people between Roner Park and Cotati and on and off the freeway. It's much different than Commerce.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
I guess, like, to clarify, how far south are we thinking of pushing this initial boundary for this conversation?
To the 76 station.
And the 76 station is the one?
The one it's just on the other side of 116.
Yeah.
So it kind of includes the entire on and off ramps of
Okay.
the freeway.
And including like the Chinese restaurant and like the Mercy and all that, so?
But it would include Mercy, because if you look at like the parcel numbers, all of these parcels touch basically Redwood Drive, or the freeway. And so my thing is, if the parcel touches the freeway, it should, or Redwood Drive, it should be included. So Gravenstein is between both of them, and then 76 touches the freeway.
I see, okay, but excluding the like Johnny's Java Shopping Center?
They're too far back, in my opinion.
Yeah, see, in my opinion, they're just right next to the 76 station, so why wouldn't we include them?
But you think about if you're driving down the freeway, you really don't see that. Where the 76 station, they already have the big sign that's visible.
And usually if you're on the free, you're like turning right? And they're up here. Right, like you're avoiding that area unless you're going to that area. I don't know, in my mind, it's close enough to the freeway, we could include it, but if you all see reason to not include it, then I don't feel particularly strongly either way.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it's on the freeway to me.
Yeah,
That's why I would
okay.
be more against it.
And is there separate regulations for 116 businesses?
Yeah, so that's Gravenstein corridor
Okay,
zoning district.
okay.
And that's a mixed-use district. It allows residential.
Okay, and so though that Johnny's Java shopping center falls under that?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine then.
Any more questions?
No.
Someone like to make a
I don't
motion?
think there is a motion. It's just,
No, that's right, we're not making any motions today. All right.
Do you have any additional questions for us, Director Hausch?
I'm going to provide a summary.
I guess one question, sorry to always be asking so many questions. What exactly is a master sign plan?
Oh,
And why are
sorry,
we
yeah,
getting
it's,
rid of it?
Okay, that's a good question. So I should have touched on this. So there was a time when shopping centers and kind of cities were pushing their shopping centers to kind of be very understated in their signage. And so you can imagine some of the communities like Carmel and some of these very, like Carmel doesn't even have street addresses on their homes. I don't know if you guys know that, but you can't even have street numbers on your home there. So there's a kind of a big push to really take away signs. And if you have a shopping center, to have very diminutive signage that's the same for all the businesses. So just kind of really, the concern is like clutter, garishness, some of the concerns that Ms. Berman was pointing to. And so there was a time when sign codes really went very restrictive in the regulations. And so what that essentially said was, if you have a shopping center multi-tenant situation, you as the landlord need to create a sign program where all your tenant signs are the same, or there's some type of theme for all the signs to be the same. It sounds great, there's a lot of benefits to the ideas behind it, but in practice, what ends up happening is, as Mr. Ling talked about, he went through a very expensive process with a sign consultant, talking to all his various tenants to try to, deal with all their individual needs. They work with us, a lot of iterations usually to get a sign program that is approved and works. And then as soon as the tenant leaves, the new tenant comes in, well, they spend a lot of time and effort coming up with their logo, their corporate colors, their branding, their identity, and they are very, they have a lot of motivation to push to be able to have all those elements in their sign, because they've spent a lot of time and money creating that identity for themselves. Well, that usually doesn't comply with the sign code that's written to make everybody the same. Well, the landlord's real interest is getting a new tenant in his vacant retail or his vacant commercial space. And so the landlord, while they may have had this idea of a sign program as being great, or maybe they did it because the city required them to do it, their motivation is meeting their tenants' needs. And so they say, propose what you want. Then the city gets it. We say, you don't comply with the sign program. So then one of two things would happen. The tenant might say, okay, fine, let's redo the sign program. So then they would be motivated to rewrite the sign program to allow all of the things that we talked about. But they're not then thinking about any other tenant in that shopping center. So then you get these iterations of sign programs that are written with a very siloed perspectives. Or the city ends up being the bad guy implementing this thing that maybe it was the landlord's idea, or we were trying to create some kind of monoculture of signage. But today's commercial reality just doesn't really support that for most business endeavors. And I would say, unique, interesting signs can also contribute to the aesthetics of a community. And so it's this balance of, which direction are you trying to go? But that's essentially what a sign program is something that says all the signs have to be the same or tries to do that. But, and we're supportive if a landlord wants to do that and they want to be the ones enforcing that with their tenants, we are 100% supportive of it. But we don't want to be in the business of trying to force commercial shopping centers to go through that process. And so that's why we're proposing to eliminate them.
Okay.
It's just kind of a loser for the city and doesn't provide a lot of benefit from the staff perspective.
Okay, great, thank you for clarifying that. So to be clear, we're getting rid of that requirement for this overlay?
Correct.
Okay.
That's proposed, yeah.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't get rid of that just citywide?
It's proposed to be gotten rid of citywide, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yeah.
Great, thank you.
So just to clarify what staff has heard so far, expand businesses or the district to the businesses on Gravenstein. Recycling facilities should require a full use permit. Implement solar lighting, and some allowances for internal illumination that prohibits or keeps a constraint on light trespass, light pollution, those types of things, but allows the kind of signage to utilize newer sign or illumination technology. Consider some type of kind of temporary and promotional signs or activities, including signage.
Sorry, on that note, would that, like a solution for the Auto Phoenix, would that fall under that category, or would that be covered in a different signage category, like the feather signs for them?
Yeah, Auto Phoenix would be also in some of the other changes, which are directory signs, increased signage, but I just don't know, I actually don't know where your business is either, I'm sorry, and so without knowing, I
think
can't.
it's close to the creek.
Yeah.
We're facing the creek right at the north end.
Yeah.
Okay.
down that alleyway.
Okay, yeah. So we'll talk, because I absolutely know exactly where your business building is, just not your individual site, yeah. But yes,
Therein lies the problem.
yeah, exactly.
That's why they're here.
But Eddie's and I think it's German Motor Works, yeah, so both of them talked to me. I came by, I wasn't able to talk to you guys, I'm sorry. But both of them told me signs are a big deal for them and they want something that gets more signage for the entire center. I actually spoke to a couple businesses in the back. They don't want more signs but everybody has their own interests, right? So they're trying to not grow too much because it's a small business and they don't want to expand too much. But anyway, we'll talk. I'll give you guys my card. More light technology, allow business activities, the sales activities, but limit them to where they're not spilling over and they're not too frequent. And then be thoughtful about unintended consequences, number of signs and light pollution. But height and square footage, a little bit bigger signs would be considered. All right.
Thank you, Director House.
Thank you.
Okay. Any reports by staff?
Just briefly, just wanted to highlight, we are seeing somewhat of what I would say is a slowdown in development activity. A lot of the folks who have approved projects haven't got into construction, as the commission knows. I mean, the commission's been part of approving the 3 largest projects that have ever been approved in Cotati, none of which are under construction right now. The other people who have said they're going to file new planning applications, development applications, have not come forward yet. So we're kind of assigning it to some of the uncertain environment that's been out there kind of this whole year, essentially, since January or so. But we're going to take the department priorities that the city council assigned us when they adopted the budget, and we're going to focus on some of the internal staff-driven things that we can continue to do, like this item, keep working on our policies, keep doing some business support activities, but just know that generally we're not seeing a lot of development applications come forward. We do have a few that we think will be coming in that will need to come to the Planning Commission, but our focus will be on city priorities while we have capacity that are assigned to us from the City Council. And we do want to say that Pema Sherpa, our planning technician position, we're not refilling that either because of this slowdown. So we're kind of pumping the brakes. That we still have that position approved for our department, but we are not filling it. And we might backfill it with an intern rather than going with the full technician. So just kind of trying to reflect and be thoughtful about the fiscal reality that we're in. And then I do want to highlight the Sustainability Committee's work. They've been having these monthly workshops, and they've been well attended and well received, and it's in partnership with the City of Rohnert Park. And the next one is August 1st, and that's Go Green, Save Green for businesses. And so it's a way for small businesses to get a green business certification through the county. There's guest speakers from the Chamber of Commerce, Oliver's, and the County Energy and Sustainability Department. And so that is Saturday, August 1st, here at City Hall from 10 to noon. I just want to highlight that for everybody. That concludes the department report.
Thank you, Director House. Any reports by the Planning Commission tonight?
I just want to point out that this Saturday, if people have time, at the Rohnert Park Library, there's going to be a joint Cotati Rohnert Park History Day. So if you're interested in learning about our shared history, please stop by.
Where's, at the library?
I knew that was, yes, I believe it starts it's 10 to 2.
Is it going to go into the rivalry?
I hope so.
No report, but can I ask a question on your report? So with the stalling of development, what's the impact to our RENA goals? Like, is that gonna
It's a
Make
good
us out
question.
of compliance, or what?
Yeah, so we, I mean, it depends on when they do an evaluation, they being the State Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD. When they do an evaluation, we have not heard back from them on our housing element APR, the annual production report. We submitted that April 1st. They haven't provided us any comments or feedback to say we're not in compliance. But to your point, we have not built the amount of units that were allocated. And while we've approved more than have been allocated to us, our production numbers, when you actually look at building permits, are way low. So it's a good question. I don't have a solid answer for it. I'll try to do some digging as to when they kind of take the snapshot in time to decide whether we're in compliance or not, and then what the downstream effects of that are.
Yeah, I wonder if every city is experiencing the same issue due to like economic and factors and all that. And I wonder if we could all band together and push back if they're trying to come down on us and say, look, we're doing what we can, but we can't control the things we can't control.
Yeah, the state did just announce they're suing, the Attorney General is suing 5 cities for not, and that's like the ultimate step of non-compliance. And we would have a very good story to tell if they tried to approach Cotati with penalties.
Right, because those cities, I think, are like actively blocking stuff,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
Correct.
Another question, any update on the, I forget what it's called, but the project we approved behind the Chinese restaurant on 116, with the tree?
Redwood Row, yeah.
Redwood
So
Row,
that
yeah.
developer has pulled out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they're, basically the market has softened to the point, they had a certain price point that they were assuming in their condo sales pro formas, and they, based on what they're seeing, the sales data show, they are not, they don't think they can get that price point, so then they're not moving forward with construction.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about the park being designed around a dead tree anymore? We have a bigger problem?
That's correct. They had worked out some proposed solutions, but nothing that was solidified. The developer, I did talk to the property owner last week, and they're still in conversations, but, I mean, until something changes to where they think they can get a certain price point, or the costs are lower, they're not gonna move forward with breaking ground.
Oh, bummer.
But the adjacent property owner, who has the apartment project, is actively talking to us, and they intend to build. It's just they have a pipeline of projects, and they need to get those other projects built before they can get to us, so they're still probably 2 years out. But they're very well capitalized, meaning they have the money, and they are interested in, they really like the project and Cotati.
Oh, well, maybe they can buy the adjacent lot and
Yeah,
expand
I
that
know.
property.
Totally.
Other question, one last question. Is there an update on the hotel? Because I know we saw some progress last meeting, but now it looks like it's stalled out again.
Yeah, I mean, they told us that the steel has been ordered, they're expecting to get it delivered, and reactivate,
Okay,
but we don't have a timeline or a specific date.
And a rumor that I heard regarding that is that there was issues with their Caltrans permits. Is there any truth to that?
Nothing that I've heard about. Yeah, I mean, we're actively engaged with them and Caltrans, because we're still moving forward with the Redwood, or I'm sorry, the Gravenstein Highway, and is it Gravenstein Way? I'm sorry, I'm not thinking of the street that we're realigning right there at the intersection.
oh, the West School Street?
I'm sorry, yeah, West School.
The crooked one?
Yes, the crooked one. But anyway, so we're actively engaging with Caltrans, and if they were having issues, they would usually talk to us, and they haven't brought that up to us.
While we're kind of on the topic, I know a big reason we want the hotel to be built is so we can take advantage of the tax on, I forget the specific name.
Transit occupancy tax?
Yeah, the transit occupancy tax. Would bed and breakfasts qualify for that? Like, is
They
there
do.
an opportunity for us to like encourage people to open those types of businesses in the city? Do we have any?
We have no bed and breakfast.
Okay,
Yeah, so short-term rentals is on the list as a potential topic of conversation, which, whether we want to put that in the lump of bed and breakfast or something different. So as we get further into the fiscal year and we start to kind of work our way down the list of projects from the city council, we could have that conversation.
Okay, and what is our stance on short-term rentals at the moment?
They're not allowed in Cotati.
Okay, I would tend to agree with that. I'm not a huge fan of those, right? But like another business that, or like maybe I'm just thinking like, is there a way we could take advantage of that tax without having a whole brand new hotel being built and not turning us into an Airbnb city, you know? So. Okay, that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Because I complain about it, I also want to praise. I did notice that the PowerPoints, mostly the text was not blocked by the closed captioning.
We're trying,
so
we're trying.
Good job, good job. There was slide 24 on the last one, but we won't talk about that one.
And the map, but you know, it's okay.
I
You
just
know,
won't mention it.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice.
It was good.
nice.
Subtle,
So
but
just-
yeah.
Good job, good job. I also requested of Director Hausch and that when a notice goes out to residents for kind of any project that's happening that will then be coming to the commission, that we be CC'd on just an email with that notice. So it doesn't need to be mailed, postage, et cetera. But I don't know about the rest of you, but a lot of times, you know, people will come to me and ask, what do you know about this? And I don't know anything about it yet. Let me read the letter. So just getting that initial heads up is very useful.
And it would be much easier for us to just send them to the entire commission. So if you start to get those in your inbox,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's, I don't want to say I'm surprised we don't do that already, but that makes a lot of sense to do that. So, yeah, thank you.
Sounds good. Anything else? No? Carly, any other information received after the agenda was posted? I know we got this letter.
Just the one comment that's on the dais, and it was also posted online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. With that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you,
Great.
Director Hausch.
thank you.